The ships floated in space like giant metal whales. Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, watching the alien vessels through the large window. The Zephyrian fleet had returned again. This was the third time in 5 years they had come to attack Earth. Jake was tired. He had fought the Zephyrians twice before. Both times, Earth had won. Both times, the aliens had run away with their damaged ships. But here they were again, like bullies who never learned their lesson. "Captain, I count 40 ships," said Amy Rodriguez. She sat at her control panel, reading the numbers on her screen. "They are moving into attack formation." Jake nodded. He had seen this before. The Zephyrians always did the same thing. They would line up their ships, power their weapons, and then wait. They wanted Earth to be afraid. But Jake was not afraid. He was annoyed. "How far are they?" Jake asked. 20,000 kilometers in closing," Annie replied. "They will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Jake walked to his command chair and sat down. The chair was old and comfortable. He had sat in it during both previous battles. He hoped he would not need to fight in it again today. The bridge was quiet. Jake's crew of 30 men and women worked at their stations. They all knew what was coming. Some were nervous. They were young and had not fought the Zephyrians before. Others were calm. They had been here before and survived. "Lieutenant Foster, open a communication channel," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir," said Carl Foster from the communication station. Jake cleared his throat. "Zephyrian Fleet, this is Captain Jake Harrison of Earth Defense Force. You are entering restricted space. Turn back now, or we will defend ourselves." There was no answer. There never was. The Zephyrians did not believe in talking. They believed in fighting. "Sir, they are powering weapons," Annie reported. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension. "Of course they are," Jake muttered. He turned to his weapons officer. "Pete, are our missiles ready?" Pete Johnson nodded. "All missile tubes loaded, Captain. Plasma cannons charged to full power." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were good people. Some had families on Earth. Others had grown up in the space colonies. All of them were ready to defend their home. "Send the standard warning," Jake said to Carl. "Tell them they have 60 seconds to power down and leave." Carl typed quickly on his keyboard. "Warning sent, Captain." The seconds ticked by slowly. Jake watched the alien ships on his screen. They were ugly things, all sharp angles and dark metal. The Zephyrians built their ships to look scary. But Jake had learned that scary-looking ships died just as easily as pretty ones. 30 seconds, Amy announced. Jake stood up. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill." Red lights flashed throughout the ship. Crew members ran to their positions. In the lower decks, engineers checked the engines. In the weapons bays, gunners made final adjustments to their targeting systems. 10 seconds, Amy counted down. Jake took a deep breath. He really did not want to do this again. Earth had been patient. They had shown mercy. They had let the Zephyrians retreat twice before. 5 seconds. But patience had limits. "Time's up," Amy said. The Zephyrian ships had not moved. Their weapons still glowed with energy. Jake sat back in his chair. "All ships, this is Captain Harrison. The Zephyrians have chosen war. Again. Defense pattern Alpha. Protect Earth. Show them why attacking humans is a mistake." Through the window, Jake saw the first Zephyrian ship fire its main cannon. A beam of green energy shot through space toward Earth's defensive line. "Here we go again," Jake said quietly. The third battle for Earth had begun. Lisa Thompson walked into the huge meeting hall of the Galactic Council. The room was bigger than a football field. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. Seats were arranged in a giant circle, with each alien race having its own section. Lisa was tired. She had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years. In that time, she had given the same speech over and over. But the aliens never seemed to listen. Today felt different. News of the third Zephyrian attack had reached everyone. The other races were watching to see what would happen. Lisa stood in the center of the room. Her blue dress was simple but neat. She carried no weapons, only a small computer pad with her notes. Around her sat beings from 37 different worlds. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange she still had trouble looking at them. Members of the Galactic Council, Lisa began. Her voice was calm and clear. The translator machines turned her words into dozens of alien languages. I come before you once again to speak about the attacks on Earth. A murmur ran through the council. Some members shifted in their seats. They knew what was happening near Earth right now. Jake Harrison and his fleet were probably already fighting. This is the third time the Zephyrian Empire has attacked us, Lisa continued. The third time in 5 years. Each time, we have defended ourselves. Each time, we have let them retreat. We have shown mercy. She paused and looked around the room. Some aliens met her eyes. Others looked away. But mercy has limits, Lisa said. Patience has limits. Earth cannot keep turning the other cheek forever. The Zephyrian delegate stood up. His name was Vextor. He was 7 feet tall and covered in crystal-like scales that changed color when he moved. Lisa had argued with him many times before. The human speaks of mercy, Vextor said. His voice sounded like breaking glass. But what mercy did they show when they took systems that belonged to others? What mercy when they spread across the galaxy like a disease? Lisa had heard this before. She was ready. Ambassador Vextor, I will say this again. Earth has only claimed empty systems, worlds with no intelligent life. We have taken nothing that belonged to anyone else. You take what you want because you are strong. Vextor shot back. You hide your true nature behind pretty words. No, Lisa said firmly. We are strong, yes. But we use our strength to protect, not to conquer. We have shared our technology freely. We have helped worlds suffering from famine and disease. We have asked for nothing in return. An alien from the Altair system raised a tentacle. The Altarians were peaceful beings who looked like giant jellyfish. Their leader, Zimbal, spoke in a gentle, bubbling voice. Ambassador Thompson speaks truth, Zimbal said. Earth helped our colonies when the plague came. They asked for no payment. Other voices joined in. The cat-like beings from Felicia mentioned how Earth had defended their trade ships from pirates. The mechanical race called the Syntheri spoke of technology exchanges that had helped both sides. Vextor's scales turned an angry red. You are all fools. The humans play a long game. They seem kind now, but wait until they are strong enough. Then you will see their true face. Lisa felt her own anger rising, but she kept it under control. Ambassador Vextor, your people have seen our true face 3 times now. Each time, you attacked first. Each time, we defended ourselves and then stopped. We did not destroy your worlds. We did not pursue your fleeing ships. That is our true face. She turned to address the whole council. But I warn you all now, Earth's patience is ending. If the Zephyrians attack again, if anyone attacks us again, we will stop holding back. We have weapons we have never used, powers we have kept hidden. Not because we are weak, but because we hoped for peace. The council chamber fell silent. Even Vextor said nothing. Lisa's voice became harder. Attack us again, and you will learn why humanity survived on a death world. You will learn why we feared ourselves so much that we stayed hidden among the stars for so long. You will learn what humans do when our children are threatened. She looked directly at Vextor. This is Earth's final warning. Choose your next actions very carefully. The council remained silent as Lisa walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the aliens began to whisper among themselves, some in fear, some in anger, and some, perhaps, in understanding. Deep under Cheyenne Mountain, the elevator went down and down. Frank Mitchell stood inside, watching the floor numbers change. They had passed level 50 a while ago. Now they were at level 85, and still going down. The mountain above held many secrets, but none were as secret as what waited at the bottom. The elevator stopped. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Frank stepped out into a white hallway. The lights were bright. The air smelled clean and cool. Armed guards stood at every corner. Frank walked to the final door. He placed his hand on a scanner. A light moved over his palm. Then he looked into another scanner that checked his eyes. Finally, he spoke his name for the voice checker. General Frank Mitchell. Code Alpha 99. The heavy door opened. Inside was a room full of computers and screens. Scientists in white coats moved between workstations. In the center stood Dr. Karen Palmer. She was a small woman with gray hair and thick glasses, but Frank knew she was one of the smartest people on Earth. General Mitchell, Karen said without looking up from her computer. I was wondering when you would come. Frank walked over to her. The Zephyrians are attacking again. The president wants to know about Project Prometheus. Karen finally looked at him. Her eyes were tired. Are we really thinking about using it? We might have no choice, Frank said. He pulled up a chair and sat down. Tell me again what it does. Karen sighed. She typed something on her keyboard. A large screen on the wall came to life. It showed a diagram of a star system. The quantum resonance weapon doesn't destroy things, Karen began. It does something worse. It shifts matter into a different dimension, a different phase of reality. Frank watched as the diagram changed. The planets in the system began to fade. They didn't explode. They just became less solid, like ghosts. Whatever we target doesn't get destroyed, Karen continued. It gets removed from our universe. It still exists, but in a place nothing can reach. Not ships, not signals, nothing. How long does it last? Frank asked. Based on our calculations, about 10,000 years, maybe more. Frank was quiet for a moment. He had seen many weapons in his career. Bombs that could destroy cities, lasers that could cut through starships. But this was different. This was not just death. This was erasure. Can it be stopped? He asked. Karen shook her head. Once the process starts, nothing can stop it. The quantum field expands at light speed. In 17 seconds, it can cover an entire star system. She typed again. The screen showed test results from their experiments. We tested it on dead planets in empty systems, Karen said. Every test worked perfectly. Too perfectly. I sometimes wish we had failed. Frank understood her feelings. Good soldiers, good scientists, they all struggled with creating better ways to kill. But Earth needed protection. And sometimes the best protection was the biggest stick. How many weapons do we have? Frank asked. 3 complete devices, 2 more under construction. Each one takes a year to build. The quantum crystals are very hard to grow. Frank stood up. He had seen enough. The president will want a full briefing. Can you have your reports ready by tonight? Karen nodded. They are already prepared. I knew this day would come. As Frank turned to leave, Karen spoke again. General, what if we're wrong? What if showing this weapon makes things worse? What if it starts an arms race? Frank stopped at the door. He didn't turn around. Doctor, the aliens already started the arms race. They just don't know it yet. This weapon will end it before it truly begins. He left the room. Behind him, Karen looked at her screens. The weapon that could remove entire star systems from reality hummed quietly in its containment field. She hoped the universe would never see what it could do. But in her heart, she knew hope was not enough. The Zephyrians had pushed too hard for too long. Earth had been patient. Earth had been kind. Now Earth would show the galaxy what happened when patience ran out. The dinner table was long and made of real wood from Earth. Captain Paul Martinez sat at one end, looking at his strange guests. 5 different alien species had come to this diplomatic dinner. They all wanted to understand humans better. Paul poured himself a glass of red wine. The bottle was one of the last from Earth's vineyards. Most food now came from space farms, but Paul kept a few bottles for special occasions. "Thank you all for coming," Paul said. He raised his glass. "To peace among the stars." The aliens raised their own drinks. Some had water. Others had liquids Paul didn't recognize. The Altarian ambassador had something that glowed blue. They ate in silence for a while. Paul had learned that many aliens felt uncomfortable eating with other species. Everyone had different ideas about what was food and what was not. Finally, Counselor Thivek of the Centauri Collective spoke. Thivek looked like a large praying mantis, but purple. His voice came from a translator box on his chest. "Captain Martinez," Thivek said, "may I ask you something about your species?" Paul smiled. "Of course. That's why we're here." "The Galactic Council does not understand humans," Thivek continued. "You say you want peace. You share technology. You help others. But you also have the strongest military in known space. This seems contradictory." Paul set down his fork. He had expected this question. Every alien asked it sooner or later. "It's not contradictory," Paul said. "Humans aren't warlike by nature. We're protective. There's a difference." "Please explain this difference," asked Glornax, the representative from the Sigma sector. She looked like a ball of gray fur with eyes on stalks. Paul thought for a moment. How could he explain humanity to beings who had never lived on Earth, who had never faced Earth's challenges? "Earth is a dangerous world," Paul began. "We have predators that can kill with one bite, weather that can destroy entire cities, diseases that can wipe out populations. For thousands of years, humans survived by working together, by protecting each other." He took a sip of wine. The aliens listened carefully. "We learned something important," Paul continued. "The strongest person is not the one who can destroy. The strongest is the one who can protect. A parent defending their child is more dangerous than any warrior seeking glory." The tentacled being from Arcturus waved an appendage. "But your history shows much war. Humans fighting humans." Paul nodded. "Yes, we're not perfect. We fought among ourselves for resources, for beliefs, for power. But we learned from those wars. We saw what happens when strength is used for conquest instead of protection." He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars shone bright. Somewhere out there, Jake Harrison was fighting the Zephyrians again. "When we met alien life, we made a choice," Paul said. "We could be conquerors, using our strength to take what we want. Or we could be guardians, using our power to protect the innocent." "But you have weapons that frighten even the warrior races," said Thivek. "The Klingori Empire has studied your fleets. They say human military power could conquer the galaxy." Paul turned back to face his guests. His expression had changed. The friendly dinner host was gone. In his place stood something harder, more dangerous. "Yes, we could conquer," Paul said quietly. "We have the weapons. We have the ships. We have the will, if we choose to use it. But we don't want to conquer. We want to explore. We want to learn. We want to make friends." His voice grew harder. "But when our families are threatened, when our home is attacked, when our very existence is at risk, then we become what our enemies fear. Not because we enjoy it, but because we must." The room was silent. The aliens looked at Paul with new understanding. Perhaps for the first time, they began to see what humans really were. "You asked about our contradiction," Paul said, returning to his seat. "There is no contradiction. We are both things at once. Peaceful builders and terrible warriors, kind friends and frightening enemies. That is what it means to be human." He picked up his wine glass again. The dangerous look faded from his face. The friendly host returned. "Now," Paul said with a smile, "who would like dessert? We have chocolate cake. It's a human specialty." Admiral Janet Wilson stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters. The room was dark except for the glow of hundreds of screens. Each screen showed different information: ship positions, weapon status, communication logs, and in the center, a massive display of local space. The red dots were enemy ships. There were too many of them. "Admiral, final count complete," reported Commander Rick Foster. He was young but smart. Janet had picked him as her aide because he saw patterns others missed. "Give me the bad news," Janet said. Rick touched his tablet. The main screen zoomed out, showing more space. More red dots appeared. "The Zephyrian fleet has 312 vessels. But that's not the worst part." Janet turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" Rick's face was grim. "Our spies confirm it. The Zephyrians have made alliances. The Draconian hegemony has sent 100 ships. The Void Hunters have added 50 more." Janet felt a cold weight in her stomach. 3 species working together against Earth. This had never happened before. "Total enemy count?" she asked. 462 ships. Rick answered. "The largest fleet ever assembled against us." Janet walked to the tactical display. She studied the enemy positions. The Zephyrians were in the center. The Draconians held the left flank. The Void Hunters prowled the edges, ready to attack any weak spot. "What do they call this alliance?" Janet asked. "They call it a preemptive defensive alliance against human expansion," Rick said. "They claim we're too dangerous to let grow stronger." Janet almost laughed. "We're dangerous. They're bringing 500 ships to attack our homeworld, and we're the dangerous ones." She turned to face her staff. 20 officers watched her, waiting for orders. They were nervous but ready. They trusted her to make the right choice. "Status of our fleets?" Janet asked. Commander Susan Lee answered from the Fleet Operations Desk. "First Fleet under Captain Harrison is engaged with the Zephyrian Advance Force. Second and Third Fleets are in position around Earth. Fourth Fleet is guarding the Moon base. Fifth Fleet is protecting the Mars colony." "Hidden assets?" Janet asked quietly. Susan's voice dropped too. "Ghost Fleet is powered up in the asteroid belt. 150 stealth ships ready to deploy. Project Thor stations are online. The quantum weapons are prepared for emergency use." Janet nodded. Earth had more defenses than the aliens knew. Humans had spent decades preparing for this day, not because they wanted war, but because they knew it might come anyway. "Ma'am, incoming message from the President," Rick announced. The main screen changed. President Maria Gonzalez appeared. She looked tired but determined. "Admiral Wilson," the President said, "I'm authorizing Defense Condition 1. All military assets are under your command. Protect Earth by any means necessary." "Understood, Madam President," Janet replied. "Do I have permission to use the quantum weapons if needed?" The President was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "If they push us to that point, yes. But Janet, try everything else first." The screen went dark. Janet turned back to her staff. "You heard the President. We're at Defense Condition 1. Wake up every weapon we have. Power up every ship. If these aliens want to test humanity's limits, they're about to find them." She walked to the communication station. "Open a channel. All frequencies. I want every ship out there to hear this." "Channel open, Admiral," the operator confirmed. Janet spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Admiral Janet Wilson of Earth Defense Command. To all hostile forces approaching Earth space, you are making a terrible mistake. Turn back now. This is your only warning." She paused, then continued. "To the Zephyrians, the Draconians, and the Void Hunters. You have united against us. You have brought the largest fleet in galactic history to our door. You think this will frighten us. You are wrong." Her voice grew harder. "Earth has been patient. Earth has been merciful. That ends now. Proceed with your attack, and you will learn why humans are the apex predators of a death world. You will learn why the galaxy should pray we remain peaceful." She cut the channel. The room was silent. On the tactical display, the enemy fleet continued its approach. War was coming. Real war. The kind Earth had tried so hard to avoid. Janet sat in her command chair. All stations, prepare for battle. Let's show them what humans can do when we stop holding back. The cameras were ready. The lights were bright. President Maria Gonzalez sat behind her desk in the Oval Office. But this was not a normal speech. This message would go to every corner of the galaxy. Maria wore a simple black suit. No jewelry, no decorations. She wanted the aliens to focus on her words, not her appearance. 30 seconds, Madam President, said the broadcast director. Maria took a deep breath. She had been president for 6 years. She had given many speeches, but none like this, none that might decide the fate of entire species. The red light on the camera turned on. To all sentient beings of the galaxy, Maria began. Her voice was calm but firm. This is Earth's final warning. Across the galaxy, beings stopped what they were doing. On 1,000 worlds, in 1,000,000 ships, creatures watched their screens. Even on the approaching enemy fleet, commanders ordered silence to hear the human leader speak. 3 times the Zephyrian Empire has attacked Earth without cause. Maria continued. 3 times we have defended ourselves with minimal force. 3 times we have allowed them to retreat. She paused. Her dark eyes looked directly into the camera. We have tried diplomacy. We have offered friendship. We have shared our technology and knowledge freely. These offers have been met with suspicion, fear, and violence. Maria's hands rested flat on the desk. She had practiced this speech many times. But now, speaking the words for real, she felt their weight. Now the Zephyrians come again. This time, they bring allies. The Draconian hegemony and the Void Hunters have joined them. They call themselves a defensive alliance, but it is Earth they attack. It is our children they threaten. Her voice grew harder. So let me be very clear. Let there be no misunderstanding. As of this moment, any further hostile action against Earth or its colonies will be met with unlimited retaliation. In the command bunkers around Earth, generals nodded. In the hidden weapon stations, scientists checked their instruments. In the secret fleet hiding among the asteroids, captains powered up their weapons. We possess weapons beyond your understanding, Maria said. Powers we have kept hidden. Not because we are weak, but because we hoped for peace. That hope dies with your aggression. She leaned forward slightly. I will now reveal one such weapon. We call it the quantum resonance device. It does not destroy. It does something worse. It removes entire star systems from our reality, shifts them to a dimension where nothing can follow. The effect lasts 10,000 years. Around the galaxy, scientific advisors scrambled to their computers. The technical data Earth provided was real. The equations checked out. The weapon was possible. More than possible. It was ready. We have 3 such devices prepared, Maria continued. Each can be deployed within minutes. Each can envelope an entire star system in 17 seconds. There is no defense. There is no escape. She let that sink in. But we do not want to use them. We do not want to remove entire civilizations from existence. We want peace. We want to explore the galaxy together. We want to be friends. Her expression softened slightly. To those who have stood with Earth, who have traded with us, who have accepted our help, know that you have nothing to fear. We protect our friends. We remember kindness. Then her face hardened again. But to those approaching Earth with hostile intent, understand this. You are not facing the humans you think we are. You are facing the humans we tried so hard not to be. The humans who survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. The humans who tamed a planet that tried to kill us every day. She stood up slowly. Turn back now. Return to your worlds. Seek peace. This is not a threat. This is a plea. Because if you force us to defend ourselves with full power, if you make us unleash what we have kept chained, the galaxy will never forgive us. And we will never forgive ourselves. Maria looked once more into the camera. But we will do it. To protect Earth. To protect our children. We will do anything. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, leaders sat in stunned silence. The humans had revealed their hand. The question now was simple but terrible. Would the attacking fleet turn back? Or would they force Earth to become the monster they feared? The Zephyrian fleet admiral watched the human broadcast end. His scales turned dark purple with anger. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by his officers. They all waited for his reaction. "Lies," Admiral Krextor said. His voice was loud in the quiet bridge. "Human propaganda. They try to scare us with fairy tales." His second in command, a younger Zephyrian named Vekmar, stepped forward carefully. "Sir, the technical data they provided. Our scientists say it could be real." Krextor spun around. "Could be, could be. We have 400 ships. They have pretty words and fake numbers. They bluff to hide their weakness." On the left side of the fleet, the Draconian commander watched the same data on his screen. Unlike the Zephyrians, Commander Schlack took the threat seriously. His people were warriors, but they were not stupid. "Analysis complete," reported his science officer. "The quantum mathematics are sound. Such a weapon is theoretically possible." Sislak's forked tongue flicked out nervously. "Can we defend against it?" "No, Commander. If the specifications are accurate, there is no known defense." The Draconian ships began to slow down. Some started to turn. They had joined this alliance for glory and territory, not for suicide. On the edge of the fleet, the Void Hunters were already leaving. They were pirates and scavengers, not soldiers. Their leader, a creature known only as Shadow, had survived for centuries by knowing when to run. This was such a time. "Where are you going?" Krextor screamed over the communications channel. "We have them outnumbered. We are so close." "The humans do not bluff about weapons," Shadow replied. His voice was like whispers in the dark. "We have seen their mercy. Now they offer us a glimpse of their wrath. Only fools ignore such warnings." The Void Hunter ships vanished into hyperspace one by one. 50 ships gone in minutes. Back on Earth, Admiral Janet Wilson watched the tactical display. "The Void Hunters are running," Rick Foster reported. "The Draconians are. They're arguing among themselves. Some want to leave." Janet nodded. "And the Zephyrians?" "Still coming. Their admiral is calling the others cowards." In space, Krextor grew more furious as his allies abandoned him. "Cowards. All of you. The humans have made you afraid with lies." More Draconian ships turned away. Commander Shellac finally made his decision. "Admiral Krextor, the hegemony withdraws from this alliance. We will not throw away our ships and lives for your pride." "You swore an oath," Krextor shouted. "We swore to join a defensive alliance. This is not defense. This is stupidity. The humans have given us a way out. We take it." The Draconian fleet began its retreat, 100 ships leaving the battle before it began. Now Krextor faced a choice. He still had 300 ships, still more than the visible human fleet. But his allies were gone. His grand alliance had crumbled. "Sir," Vekmar said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider. The humans have never lied about their capabilities before." Krextor's scales flashed bright red. "You too. You doubt me too. I doubt the wisdom of testing weapons we do not understand." Around them, other Zephyrian captains began sending private messages. They remembered the last 2 defeats. They wondered if their admiral's pride was worth their lives. On Earth, bunkers opened in the mountains, in the Australian desert, under the ice of Antarctica. Massive doors slid apart. Platforms rose from hidden depths. "Admiral," Rick reported, "the quantum weapons are in final position. President's authorization confirmed. We can fire on your command." Janet watched the screen. The Zephyrian fleet had stopped advancing. They floated in space, uncertain. She could see small groups of ships turning away. "They're breaking," she said softly. "The fleet is falling apart." Krextor stood alone on his bridge. Half his captains had stopped responding to orders. Ships were leaving without permission. His grand attack was becoming a humiliation. All remaining ships, he commanded, his voice now desperate. Attack now, for the glory of Zephyria. But glory was a poor substitute for survival. One by one, his ships turned away. His own crew looked at him with doubt. In the end, only 30 ships followed his order to advance. 30 ships out of 400. The consequences of Earth's warning were clear. The alliance was broken. The fleet was scattered. And Krexter's war was already lost. A single plasma burst shot through space. The green energy beam hit Earth's defensive shield and scattered harmlessly. But it was enough. The Zephyrians had fired first. Admiral Janet Wilson spoke quietly. Authorization code Omega 77. Target the Zephyrian home system. Fire. In Australia, a massive device pointed at the stars. It looked like a radio telescope, but it was something far more terrible. Energy built up inside it. The air hummed with power. The beam that fired was invisible to the eye. It moved at light speed toward a distant star, toward the world where billions of Zephyrians lived. 17 seconds. That's all it took. On screens across the galaxy, beings watched in horror and awe. The Zephyrian system didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply faded, like a picture losing focus, like a dream upon waking. The planets still existed. The stars still burned, but they were no longer part of normal space. They existed in a bubble universe, cut off from everything else, unreachable, untouchable. For 10,000 years, Krexter's flagship received the news moments later. His home was gone. Not destroyed, but gone. His family, his world, everything he had fought for, now existed in a place he could never reach. The remaining Zephyrian ships surrendered immediately. There was no more fight in them, no more pride, only the terrible understanding of what humans could do when pushed too far. Within hours, the news spread across the galaxy. The draconian ships that had fled sent messages to their leaders. The Void Hunters disappeared into the deepest parts of space. Every warlike species in the galaxy suddenly became very interested in peace. 3 days later, Lisa Thompson stood before the Galactic Council again. The chamber was packed, every seat filled. Every race wanted to hear what Earth would say. But the mood was very different now. Where before there had been anger and dismissal, now there was respect. And fear, a lot of fear. Earth's position is clear, Lisa said. Her voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber. We want peace. We want cooperation. We want to explore the galaxy together. But we will not be victims. We will not be conquered. And we will not show this level of restraint again. Nobody argued. Nobody protested. The Zephyrian seats sat empty. Their representative had fled when the news arrived. We propose a new addition to the Galactic Charter, Lisa continued. Earth will share quantum resonance technology with the Council. Not the weapons, but the detection systems. Any race that builds such weapons will be known to all. This will prevent secret arms races. The vote was unanimous. Every hand, tentacle, and claw rose in agreement. Furthermore, Lisa said, Earth requests permanent status on the Galactic Security Council, with veto power over military actions. Again, unanimous agreement. Nobody wanted to risk injuring Earth now. As the session ended, the Altarian representative approached Lisa. What will happen to the Zephyrians? The jellyfish-like being asked. Their colonies on other worlds are safe, Lisa replied. The home system will return in 10,000 years. They can rebuild then. But their empire is finished. Far from the council chambers, Jake Harrison stood on a hill on Earth. He had retired from military service after the brief battle. Now he watched the sunset with his daughter Ashley. Daddy, why did the aliens keep attacking us? Ashley asked. She was only 10, but smart for her age. Jake pulled her close. Because they didn't understand us, sweetheart. They thought being kind meant being weak. They learned it meant we had strength to spare. Will they attack again? Jake smiled. No, I don't think so. We showed them what happens when humans stop being nice. Nobody wants to see that again. In the years that followed, Earth became known not as conquerors, but as guardians. Planets under threat called for human protection. Pirates fled when human ships appeared. Wars ended before they began. The quantum weapons were never fired again. They didn't need to be. Their one use had changed everything. Earth had given the galaxy its final warning, and in doing so, had given it peace. As the old Earth saying went, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Humanity had spoken very softly for very long. When they finally showed their stick, the galaxy learned to listen. The age of galactic warfare was over. The age of human guardianship had begun.